Speaker and members, show me voting no, too, Mr. Dutton. And let me give you 4 reasons why. First of all, one very, 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 very important reason is that we're making a very big change here without any discussion, and the big change is that we no longer owe school districts anything in particular under this bill. There's a lot of estimates that go into figuring out what the foundation school program numbers should be, and our budget board works very hard to get us there, but as we've seen in this last 2 years, and we see in every 2 years, we can't perfectly predict student growth, we can't perfectly predict property value growth, but we've always made a promise to the school districts that if we screw up and don't appropriate enough and you're entitled to that money, we will come back and provide it for you. Because what happens if you don't? One of 2 things happen. One is that the school districts really can't hire the teachers they need because they don't know if they're going to be able to pay them until March. That doesn't make sense. The other thing that happens is what happened back before we had this proration provision that Mr. Eisler is attempting to change, and that is that school districts would chase each other up the ladder to make sure that they got their money before those cuts came. So what they'd do is they'd run their tax rates up so they could get a little more off the state system. They'd run their tax rates up, and we had a spiral of tax rates that went up, and we finally said, we got to stop this. We got to make a promise to you that if we're not all fighting over the same pie, we're going to come in and do it. We had huge property tax increases before we put this stabilizer in. And we also had a whole heck of a lot of lawsuits. We talk about lawsuits, we always hear about school finance lawsuits, but you know, I've been here almost 20 years now. There's only been 1 lawsuit during my time here. And that was when everybody got up to the $1.50 level. It's been pretty stable. And it's stable because we have a system in place. It's not subject to the wills of each and every one of us each time, and who's ever sitting on the Conference Committee of Appropriations. And those of us who have done higher ed know that higher ed is given out based on who's sitting on the Conference Committee on Appropriations. But public schools don't work that way. We have a stable system. We can go to the courts and tell them that. This bill undoes that. And we never talked about that in committee. And we never talked about that on this floor. And they never talked about it in the Senate. This just appeared a couple of weeks ago. Something we haven't talked about tonight is that this bill significantly changes the way we handle weights. Now, I put in my proposal a couple of weeks ago, when I was really short of money, something that affected the career and technology weight and something that affected the gifted and talented weight, and boy, did I hear from people. From some of you on the floor and from a lot of people back home. This bill changes the way weights more money into the system and not put more money into the corresponding weights at the same time. Those of you who are concerned about gifted and talented, those of you who are concerned about career and technology, those of you who raise those concerns with me should be absolutely concerned about this bill. We talked some about equity. Members, Mr. Eisler said that this House wants equity and we need to give it equity. Well, equity means that 2 districts that are roughly the same and have the same tax rate ought to get the same money. And certainly the district with more money ought to get cut more. And Mr. Eisler said in the 2nd year we do equity. Well, Rob, you're looking at different printouts than I am. Because I just picked up the printouts and started going through them, and I didn't have to go very far. I just, just pick a random page. This is page 5 of the printouts. I've got Buena Vista and Buffalo. I know where Buffalo is. I don't know where Buena Vista is. Who's got Buena? Mr. Gallego has Buena Vista. Buena Vista spends close to $7,300 per kid. Buffalo spends about $6,000. They each have the same tax rate. In Mr. Eisler's equity proposal in the 2nd year, the district that's spending $7,300 loses a lower percentage than the district that's spending $6,000. How is that equity? That's only equity for Pete. That's not equity for everybody. That's not a rare example. Where's Rob? Our friends in Canadian Texas, who we know. Our friends, it's because of your boiler, Mr. Gallego, that they get extra money. In Canadian Texas, they have a tax rate of 96 cents. They raise $7,500. In Canton, which is the next one on the list, they have a higher tax rate. They raise $2,000 less. Canadians getting cut $600. Canton's getting cut $400. All right, that helps equity a tiny bit, but not an awful lot. Not enough to say this is an equitable plan. Carrollton Farmers Branch, who's got that now? Is that Miss Truitt? Do you have Carrollton Farmers? Who has Carrollton Farmers Branch? Somebody here does. Carrollton Farmers Branch in Carthage. Carthage gets $6,700 a kid. Carrollton Farmers Branch gets $6,000. Carthage is going to lose a lower percentage than Carrollton Farmers Branch, even though their tax rate is 20 cents less. So let's not kid ourselves about this being about equity. And equity, as I was just discussing with Mr. Taylor, has a very important economic effect, because here's what happens. You have two districts next to each other. One gets more money from the state than the other, and they have the same tax rate, but they got to hire the same teachers. The one with more that's getting less money has only one choice. They got to raise their property tax rate. As soon as they raise their property tax rate, what happens to their economic development arguments compared to the guy who's sitting in the richer district? Same facilities, same schools, same everything else. I'm going to pay a higher property tax rate over here. That's what the court got concerned about. That's the system that we're perpetuating in this bill. Members, you all probably know how you're going to vote. But I will also tell you that if you don't have any other reasons to vote against this, you should vote against it because of process. We have a tradition and a rule in this House that says that when there are House bills to be considered, we consider the House bills, and we come out on this floor and we fight and we amend and we talk and we battle back and forth, and we end up with a House product. And we send it over to those guys and we say, this is the best we can come up with, you come up with yours, and then we'll fight over them. We never brought a school finance bill to the floor this session. Never. My bill sat in calendars. It didn't get on. It was set up as an amendment. Mr. Eisler had a bill set up as an amendment. Never got heard. We never got to discuss it. And then all of a sudden this other proposal shows up, and it's the House proposal. Nobody in here gave that conference committee the authority to negotiate that proposal. Nobody. Because we never voted on it. We never looked at it. We didn't know it existed until 20 minutes before the pre-filing deadline for amendments on that bill. And now we're being told at 8:30 on the night we have to pass it, that we better the heck pass this or we're going to be in a special session. So close your eyes and hold your nose and vote for it. It's not the way the House should work, members. It's not the way the House should work. We do our best work when we do it together. We do our best work when we all work on it. We do our best work when we have 100 amendments and come out with a better product. We haven't done this on this. And for that reason alone, even if your school district does better, even if your school district is telling you they like it, I would urge you to vote no. Thank you.